In today's program, exploring Sri Aurobindo's divine teachings, an interview with Mr. Ramesh Bijelani, part 2 of 2. We'll see a general picture of the variety of yoga schools and reach deep into the central doctrine of Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo, yogi, philosopher, and poet, was born on August 15, 1872. In Puducherry, he founded a community of spiritual seekers, which took shape as the Sri Aurobindo Ashram in 1926. There he devoted himself for the rest of his life to the development of his integral yoga. In that year, he entrusted the work of guiding the seekers to his spiritual collaborator, Mira Alfalfa, 1878 to 1973, who was called the Mother in the ashram. The ashram eventually attracted seekers from many countries throughout the world. Mr. Ramesh Bijelani is a medical doctor by qualification and has worked as a professor at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He is a member of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Delhi Branch Trust, engaging in giving inspirational talks and writing on spiritual subjects. Mr. Ramesh Bijelani regards his first visit to Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Delhi Branch, in 1992 as a significant turning point in his life, from which he began to look upon Sri Aurobindo as the spiritual guide and the Mother as the source of love and grace.
What qualifies yoga as a spiritual discipline is that it not only has the techniques for improving the performance of the body and the mind, it also has guidance available for how the body and the mind should be used. And how they should be used is in keeping with spirituality. And that is what makes it a spiritual discipline. And that I have just talked about at considerable length, how spirituality can be brought in life as a guide to tell us how to do our daily work, how to respond to ups and downs of life, how to make choices in life. So all that guidance is a part of yoga.
As people often say, saying is one thing, but doing is another. The truth is merely of theoretical value unless it can be lived. Sri Aurobindo and the Mother thus offered a practical and holistic method to reach the unity with the divine. That is the integral yoga. In Sri Aurobindo's monumental work, The Synthesis of Yoga, he analyzed various schools of yoga, and by synthesizing them pointed out a way through which we can lead a divine life while in human existence.
Now, integral means total, and it is total in a variety of ways. Firstly, it is total because it incorporates the essence of all the major traditional schools of yoga, particularly Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, Tantra Yoga, and Yoga of the Gita. It leans very heavily on the Yoga of the Gita, but all the same, it does not reject the other traditional schools of yoga. The period when he was around, the external features of yoga had come to dominate the scene and the psyche of people to such an extent that the spirit underlying yoga had been forgotten. So everything was about the techniques of yoga. So the spirit of yoga had to be revived. And what Sri Aurobindo did was to work out a single harmonious entity using all these traditional schools of yoga which all have a certain focus on self-improvement, eventually leading to self-perfection, which is the same as union with the divine. So that is the central sort of principle of all schools of yoga. So keeping this central principle intact, he took the particular features of each of these schools which should be incorporated in the synthesis. For example, Hatha Yoga respects the body, emphasizes the body, and the body is the basic instrument which we have for action, and therefore it should not be neglected. So taking care of the body is a part of integral yoga, but does not have the same emphasis and exclusive attention as it has in Hatha Yoga. Same way about Raja Yoga, that's about the mind. So again, the mind should not be neglected. It's the body-mind complex together is our instrument, so the mind should not be neglected, but it does not have that exclusive attention which it receives in traditional Raja Yoga. Then the Yoga of the Gita, the beautiful features of the Yoga of the Gita are that it gives the flexibility to each seeker depending upon his inclinations and temperament, and it also brings yoga into daily life. So these are some of the things which Aurobindo emphasized, but then the Gita does not have anything about the techniques of yoga. But then in Aurobindo's synthesis, the techniques are also accepted as valid for improving the performance of the basic instrument, because if the basic instrument is not good, we cannot live even the yoga of the Gita. And Tantra, again, the basic feature of Tantra is life acceptance, life embracing spirituality even more strongly than the Gita. So that is what he took from Tantra Yoga. Now, if we put all this together, we get a single harmonious entity. That's what Aurobindo worked out, and that is what we call integral yoga. But then one way in which integral yoga differs from all the traditional yogas is, again, the way his spirituality differs. That it does not stop at individual salvation or individual welfare. It has a collective aspect to it. Since yoga and spirituality go together, yoga is just the application of spirituality. The goal of Sri Aurobindo's and the Mother's yoga or integral yoga also is an improvement of the human race, changing the very human nature, making a contribution to the change of human nature as a result of further evolution by each one of us working towards our own evolution.
Let's do some yoga and relax our bodies and mind. We'll be right back after these short messages. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Considerate viewers, welcome back to Exploring Sri Aurobindo's Divine Teachings, an interview with Mr. Ramesh Bijelani, Part 2 of 2. During our interview, Mr. Ramesh Bijelani also shared with us the promising vision from Sri Aurobindo and the Mother for the spiritual future of this world, in which the spiritual awakening and rise up of consciousness are the main themes. Now let's listen to this uplifting information from the respectful devotee.
Because so far spirituality has been primarily about individual salvation. Let me think of myself, how I can liberate myself from this miserable world. It's for the first time that Sri Aurobindo and the Mother set up as the goal of spirituality not just individual salvation, but a collective change which will lead to an upward shift in the average human consciousness, which in turn will make this world a better place to live in. Their vision of the future is very reassuring and optimistic, and they have said that the next leap in evolution is around the corner, and therefore it's not far away. It may be a few hundred years away, but a few hundred years are also nothing as in relation to history. It may take some time, but then we can make it faster. We can accelerate the process by each of us contributing to it. As a result of the change in the level of the human consciousness, in such a way that a large number have a consciousness which is distinctly higher than the present average, the average itself will shift. And as the average shifts, or you can say the average human nature, the nature of the common person will change in such a way that it will be inspired more and more by love. And when that happens, that will be the ultimate end of the problems of human existence. And that requires this approach of consciously engaging in the process of growing in consciousness.
Let's wrap up today's program with a verse from Sri Aurobindo's epic poem Savitri, a legend and a symbol. We sincerely thank Mr. Ramesh Bijelani for taking the time to share with us the essence of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's teachings, which has brightened our life with divine light.
Awaken to the meaning of my heart, that to feel love and oneness is to live, and this the magic of our golden change. Is all the truth I know or seek, O sage? Wandering at her and her two luminous words, westward they turned in the fast-gathering night.
To feel love and oneness is to live. To feel love and oneness is to live. That sums it up all. Because love is the antidote to ego, and to feel that is possible only when one transcends the ego. And when one does that, one also feels one with the rest of the creation. And when that has happened, all the evil, all the suffering from this world will be wiped out.
Glorious viewers, thanks for joining us today on this episode of Exploring Sri Aurobindo's Divine Teachings, an interview with Mr. Ramesh Bijelani, Part 2 of 2.